Chapter 2. The Petrified Grove. Kaelen moved like a shadow through the thickening gray mist. The deeper he advanced into the whispering wilds, the colder the air became, biting through his dark leather armor. But it was the ground beneath his boots that truly unnerved him. The soft, spongy moss that carpeted the outer forest had begun to thin, replaced by a strange, brittle surface. The massive, winding roots of the ancient trees no longer felt like living wood. They felt like jagged, unyielding rock.
The rot is spreading faster than the elders predicted. It took centuries for the eastern fringes to calcify. This deep in the canopy, it should be thriving.
He paused, reaching out with a bare hand to press his palm against the trunk of a towering iron oak. To the eye, it looked like a normal tree, its thick bark heavily textured and covered in what appeared to be dark green moss. But to the touch, it was freezing cold. The bark was entirely smooth and as hard as forged steel. The moss was not a plant. It was a vein of emerald-colored mineral. The mighty tree had completely petrified, turned into a silent monument of black obsidian.
Entire groves turned to stone. The forest is not just dying. It is freezing in time. The resonance is completely gone.
Kaelen drew his hunting knife and tapped the heavy iron pommel against the trunk of the petrified tree. In a living forest, the wood would absorb the blow with a dull, hollow thud. But here, against the black stone, the iron hit with a sharp, piercing crack. The sound bounced violently off the surrounding stone trees, echoing into the gray mist like a dropped glass in an empty hall.
I have to change my footing. The acoustics here are a death trap. Every step on this stone will broadcast my location for a mile.
He adjusted his gait, rolling his steps from the outside of his boot to the toe, a technique used by the outland trackers to cross dry riverbeds. The petrified grove was a vast, terrifying graveyard of colossal stone pillars. Without the rustle of leaves or the creak of swaying branches to mask his movements, the silence felt incredibly fragile. He kept his eyes locked on the trail. The muddy, three-toed footprints he had been tracking earlier had disappeared, replaced by deep, frantic scratches gouged directly into the petrified stone. Whatever the beast was, its claws were sharp enough to carve through solid obsidian, and its strides were growing wider. It was running.
It is panicked. Discordants do not run unless they are hunting, or being hunted. And there is nothing out here big enough to hunt a beast of that size.
Kaelen followed the jagged scratch marks for another mile, navigating the labyrinth of frozen trees, until the trail stopped abruptly. The petrified roots leading forward had been sheared off completely, jutting out over the edge of a massive, dark abyss. The earth had given way, forming a colossal sinkhole that stretched hundreds of feet across.
Collapse. The soil beneath the roots must have turned to ash and caved in.
He crept to the jagged edge and peered over. The sinkhole was deep, its bottom obscured by a thick, swirling pool of heavy mist. The sheer drop was treacherous, lined with sharp, broken stone roots. Kaelen strained his eyes, looking for any sign of the beast, but the fog was too dense. He was about to turn back and circle the perimeter when he felt it. It was not a sound, but a deep, rhythmic pressure pushing against his jawline. It made his teeth ache. It was a faint, mechanical pulse vibrating through the gray mist, pushing upward from the very bottom of the crater.
That is not a beast. Beasts do not beat like a drum. That is a frequency, an artificial one.
Kaelen sheathed his iron knife, securing it tightly in its leather strap. He looked down into the swirling mist, the rhythmic vibration pulling at his senses, demanding to be found. He dug his gloved fingers into the sharp edge of a petrified root, swung his legs over the abyss, and began the steep, treacherous climb down into the dark.